began to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Wednesday, May 29th, 2019, hump day, middle of the weekday, starting that long, slow glide down to Powwow on a Friday and getting into June and summer, although it's still snowing in some parts of the country here. We have a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations here. So let's get right on into it here. Okay, if you are in Ohio, there's been a state of emergency declared in multiple counties there. They're still dealing with this horrendous weather. I mean, 11 days straight of storms and tornadoes. There have been more than 500 tornadoes in the U.S. during the last 30 days. That is definitely an unusual streak of weather, to put it delicately here. And between the tornadoes and the flooding, they're declaring states of emergency all over. So please take care of yourself if you're near that part of the country. Keep your eyes out the window. Keep alert. Keep your news radio on. And stay safe. Be ready to move if you have to here. Okay. Now, addressing a press conference in Dubai on Wednesday, earlier today, U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton declared that Iranian underwater mines were likely used in an attack on 4 international oil tankers near the Strait of Hormuz a week and a half ago, including 2 Saudi vessels. But of course, he didn't present any evidence nor show the precise nature of the damage. Now, we've all seen the photos. The damage was above the waterline. So if the Iranians had used underwater mines, they would have been underwater. The ships would have been in far more trouble. Whoever placed those limpet mines placed them above the waterline. It was just for show. It was a false flag. And they didn't get flaming, huge, burning tankers for the news. So they basically called it off. But Bolton is still out there saying that Iran probably used Iranian naval mines for the UAE oil tanker attacks and described it as sabotage near the Fujairah Emirate and the drone strikes 2 days later on the oil pipeline. And again, no evidence. We have no idea who really did it. But Iran is in the crosshairs, so let's blame Iran. Let's just go on out and blame Iran and say, Iran did it. Iran is the bad guys, and we're just going to blame them for everything. Tornadoes in the Midwest, it's Iran. They've got a weather-changing machine here. Anyway, the United States is now accusing Russia of conducting low-yield nuclear tests in violation of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. And basically, U.S. intelligence is saying that Russia has been secretly conducting these very low-yield nuclear tests up by the Arctic Circle, which is a violation of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. This is being reported in the Wall Street Journal. and the alleged tests conducted at the remote archipelago of Novaya Zemlya above the Arctic Circle come as the agreed-upon arms control framework between the new nations has shown signs of deteriorating as both sides pursue ambitious programs to develop new nuclear weapons. Well, I think this is a clear case of the pot calling the kettle black, because we know the United States is trying to upgrade their nuclear arsenal, and I'm sure they're conducting tests somewhere, if not the Nevada desert and the Australian outback. France used to conduct their nuclear tests in the Tahiti archipelago. In fact, many years ago, I was in Tahiti during one of the tests, and I felt the ground shake. So those are big bombs out there. I get very concerned over this development of nuclear weapons. I mean, let's be very honest. Russia can't physically invade North America, nor can the U.S. Army physically invade Russia. So when war comes between Russia and the United States, it's going to be long-range missiles, it's going to be nuclear warheads, and it's going to be a bad day for anybody not wearing 2 million sunblock. Alrighty. Huawei has gone to court, and they're trying to basically get the courts to declare the national security ban unconstitutional. And so they filed a motion in a Texas court seeking a summary judgment on the constitutionality of the Trump administration's decision to prohibit U.S. companies and government agencies from using Huawei equipment due to national security concerns. The motion is the latest development in a lawsuit that Huawei first filed back in March, challenging Section 889 of the National Defense Authorization Act, signed into law back in August, which barred federal agencies and their contractors from buying Huawei equipment. Now, that prohibition has since been expanded by executive order to cover most American companies. The trade war is getting really, really serious out there. Okay, pardon me. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network here. Okay, apparently White House advisor Jared Kushner, the chief architect of the deal of the century, is embarking on a tour in the Middle East to rally support for a U.S. engineered conference in Bahrain next month, where the initial stage of the peace proposal will be unveiled. This is going to be the carrot component, where they're going to say, we're going to give lots of money to Palestine. And then when they come on out later and they said, well, this is all based on Palestine giving up their right of return and various things like that. So we'll see how that goes. By the way, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his cabinet have been hit with a lawsuit that seeks to block their holding a cabinet meeting in Israel on the pretense that it makes it impossible for Floridians to basically come on in and watch what they're doing in the name of transparency. So we'll see what happens on that one here. Now, here's a little bit of arrogance. Brigadier General Sharon Efik, Israel's military advocate, has basically told the International Criminal Court to butt out of the IDF's affairs, saying that Israel can probe its own alleged war crimes. Really, we can take care of these. We can look at our own war crimes. There's no need for the ICC to come in here. So, we'll see what happens there. The position of Israel is that the International Criminal Court does not have jurisdiction to discuss the issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Talk about arrogance and chutzpah. Over in France, activists are still having a protest battle, if you will, with ships that are attempting to pick up weapons to take to Saudi Arabia to use in Yemen. And French rights groups ACAT sought on Tuesday to block the loading of what it said were munitions onto a Saudi Arabian ship docked in southern France. Now, pressure is mounting on Paris to stop military sales to Saudi Arabia. ACAT said it had filed a legal challenge to prevent the vessel from taking delivery of its cargo. The Bahri Tabuk, it's the name of the ship, is due to load French weapons for Saudi Arabia, one of the main belligerents in the Yemeni conflict. It added that it is mobilizing and is calling on civil society and local networks to prevent these munitions from going to Saudi Arabia. Now, another Saudi ship left France's northern coast 2 weeks ago without a cargo of weapons after dockers threatened to block its arrival in the port of Le Havre. So people are beginning to stand up, fight against the forces of war. And I think that's a really good thing. Okay, over in the Balkans. Boy, don't you just wish some of these places would steady down and stay kind of peaceful for a while? Anyway, Kosovo forces are raiding in Serb-majority areas. This is creating a new round of tensions in the Balkans. Apparently back on May 28th, that would have been just yesterday, Kosovo Police's Regional Operations Support Unit carried out mass raids in areas of compact settlement of ethnic Serbs in the northwestern part of the breakaway region. ROSU units, reportedly supported by over 70 vehicles, detained more than a dozen ethnic Serbs, mostly persons influential in the local community. Besides this, the ROSU briefly detained and beat a Russian member of the UN Interim Administrative Mission in Kosovo. The targeted area is 90% populated by Serbs who refuse to be part of the self-proclaimed Republic of Kosovo. ROSU actions faced resistance from the local population. According to the Kosovo side, at least 2 police officers were injured. Several media outlets also reported gunfire, but no details of the supposed live fire usage have appeared so far, meaning nobody got hit, which is a good thing. Okay. Donald Trump came out the other day and basically contradicted National Security Advisor John Bolton and Japanese President Abe, saying that he wasn't concerned with North Korea's short-range missile tests and that he is confident that they don't actually violate UN resolutions. Now, we have not heard anything from the United Nations at this point. Okay, but a lot of people like Bolton and Abe are saying, oh yes, these are serious matters, these short-range missile tests. And so there's a little bit of an impasse happening there. But Trump, I think, is trying to soft pedal this in the hope that he's going to get Kim Jong-un back to the negotiating table. But so Trump basically came on out and said these North Korea short-range missile tests did not violate UN sanctions. These missiles cannot reach Japan, they cannot reach Guam, they cannot reach here in Hawaii, they certainly cannot reach the North American continent. Now, I think if Trump really wants to get Kim Jong-un back to the negotiating table, the first thing he ought to do is release that tanker, that cargo ship, rather. Just send it back home. That would relax everybody on this thing. There's another story. This one's over in the Daily Mail. And it says that Donald Trump has soured on his National Security Advisor, John Bolton. Apparently, he's insulting him in private. And Bolton, of course, is traveling to the Middle East to try and gin up support for a war in Iran, which Trump says he does not want. So apparently Trump has grumbled about Bolton in private at his Florida golf club, to advisors, and even to mega donor Sheldon Adelson, the conservative casino owner who backs Bolton. So apparently it's a very strained relationship, and Bolton is attending this emergency summit of Arab leaders in Saudi Arabia, where Bolton, who's previously advocated for harsh treatment of Iran, reassured allies the U.S. is being responsible when it comes to Tehran. Responsible meaning we're going to start another war. I think it would be a wonderful thing if Trump got rid of Bolton. And if he's talking to Sheldon Adelson, who is Bolton's primary supporter, I think it's serious. I think Bolton could be gone in another few weeks, and we could have another national security advisor. Oh, to get a peacenik in there, what can I tell you? All right, well, the big news today, and it's just completely swamping Fox News, is that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is retiring from the Department of Justice, and he came on out with this very bizarre statement where he said charging Trump was not an option because of Justice Department rules, and saying that in point of fact, the investigation didn't actually clear the president of wrongdoing, just that they didn't find enough evidence to charge him. And of course, the Democrats are freaking out about it and saying, yeehaw, yeehaw, we can go forward on this one. So the Democrats are ramping up their calls for impeachment. Trump has tweeted the case is closed. And one has to wonder just why Mueller felt he needed to come on out and make this statement. You know, that they couldn't prove that Trump was guilty, but they didn't prove that he was innocent. That's a very bizarre statement. It's an either-or situation. You either prove they're guilty or you presume they're innocent. But Mueller's out there saying his team did not have an option of charging Trump with a crime because of Justice Department policy. He's blaming it on that. And he said if the team had confidence the president did not commit a crime, the special counsel's report would have made that point. But Mueller's office is now officially closed here. Christopher Steele, the author of that fake dossier with its salacious claims about Donald Trump and a couple of prostitutes in a Moscow hotel, is refusing to cooperate with Attorney General Barr's probe, and basically saying that Steele, who's a former Russia expert for MI6, will not answer questions from prosecutor John Durham, named by Barr to examine the origins of the investigation into Trump and his campaign team. Now, obviously, the origins of where that dossier came from are critical to understanding exactly what happened. We know that Christopher Steele was paid a great deal of money. It was laundered through Fusion GPS, but it originated with the Democratic National Committee. It originated with the Hillary Clinton campaign. And I can understand why Steele doesn't want to talk about this, because he might wind up in Fort Marcy Park, or wherever it is that Seth Rich wound up. Now, House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff is predicting that two top officials will resist President Trump's move to declassify intelligence connected to the Russia investigation. And Schiff is saying that CIA Director Gina Haspel and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats might, if the pressure becomes too great, follow the example of former Defense Secretary Jim Mattis and resign, rather than release the information. Okay, let's grab a phone call here. Don in Iowa. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Yes, Mueller says that it was not. It was because of the DOJ rules that he could not charge Trump with the crime. But when Barr gave his testimony, he made that point for sure. He said he asked Mueller 3 times when he talked to him if it was because of the rules of the DOJ, and he said, and Mueller said no, that's what Barr said. So they're in conflict. They're
Okay,
on
Don,
that
I'm going to
point.
put you on hold. Don't hang up. I'm going to come back to you after these words from our
Okay.
sponsors.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Don in Iowa. And Don, you were telling us that this idea that this is all because of Department of Justice rules really doesn't bear out in the wash. Don, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Mueller. You know, I don't like the guy at all. You know, I don't want to say anything really bad about him, but he's a scumbag. You know, and he was involved also in everything he's done his whole life is just total subservience to his deep state masters and just lying, cheating, stealing, and he was involved with the Whitey Bulger case.
Yes.
And you know, Whitey Bulger, the FBI protected him, and some of them got paid off, and helped. One of the FBI guys actually helped murder somebody. They were in the mob with Whitey. And then when Whitey took off and went on the lam, they didn't try to catch him. They could have caught him, and they kicked the U.S. Marshals off of the case. And Whitey Bulger he was hiding in L.A., Santa Monica, and he went. There was the first movie made about Whitey. There were two movies. The recent one was Johnny Depp, but the first one was with Jack Nicholson. It was loosely based on Whitey Bulger's life. And Whitey went to the premiere of that movie in San Diego. They weren't looking, you know, they didn't think, well, maybe he'll be here, you know. That they knew they had tips that he was there, and it wasn't until they brought the U.S. Marshals back into the case, and then immediately they caught him. And as soon as he got caught, not long after that, he was murdered. So the whole thing stinks. Mueller stinks, you know, and I hate it when these people say, "Oh, he's an honorable man." That's bull. He's not an honorable. There's nothing honorable about Mueller. He's a scum of the earth human being. I'll let you go, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I mean, certainly. I mean, I'm having to wonder why he's coming out today with this statement. I mean, the case is over and done with. They came out with the report. They didn't find any evidence of collusion, you know, and why does he feel he needs to come out today and say, well, we couldn't actually prove him innocent. We just couldn't prove that he was guilty, knowing that this is going to be fodder for the Democrats. So, yeah, somebody bought him or somebody twisted his arm. Anyway, we're going to go back to the phones to Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, Mike, I've called before and I've told you that there's no way in hell that Mueller is ever going to testify before a congressional committee or any committee because, like your previous caller talked about, what dirt he's been involved in. He's about as dirty a cop as existed. And today was a classic bitch move by Mueller. I mean, now he says, after this, I'm not going to talk anymore, ever. Okay?
Yeah.
And, you know, the Democrats will buy into it and say, well, he gave us this rejuvenation of our whole scam, so we'll let him. We're not going to subpoena him. So the Mueller, the chance of which I was really hoping to see, you know, the Mueller before the Democratic loony squad in Congress, and then have the Republicans like Jordan question him about with the Steele dossier and Hillary and all these other crimes that he's been involved in. The other thing that's interesting is A.G. Barr happens to be in Alaska at the time, so I'm sure this was a surprise for him. And, you know, and then he gets a few things. He gets the cheap shot at Trump on his way out. He gets to, reinvigorate the demoralized deep state, who knows the D-class is coming, and quite soon they're going to be being frog-marched to their indictments. So, you know, on several levels, I can see exactly. I mean, to anybody that's somewhat informed, you can see what he's doing. I mean, he's a dirty cop, rat, deep state assassin. He failed in his attempt to get Trump. He's throwing a bone to the Democrats, and meanwhile he says, I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, and meanwhile he's got the nerve to sit there and say that just because we didn't indict Trump doesn't mean he's not guilty. And then meanwhile, well, where's your evidence? You know, I mean, if you got evidence that he's guilty, I mean, it really, he turned, you know, all our rules of law once again. You know, it's kind of like Comey did with Hillary.
Yes.
I mean, if they're guilty, say they're guilty and indict them. If they're not guilty, just don't indict them them and don't talk about it. That's what you do. As a rule of laws, you either indict them and that's your statement of their guilt, or you don't indict them and you don't talk about it. I think Trump should sue him for a slander. I mean, you can't just sit there and say, just because we didn't indict him doesn't mean he's innocent. I mean, what the hell is that?
Okay,
Don't indict
Joe,
him and that's it.
Joe, I need to put you on hold. We got to take a break for commercials. Don't hang up. I'm going to come right back to you after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Joe in Tennessee. We're talking about Special Counsel Robert Mueller and the very strange and bizarre announcement that he made today, where after issuing a report that says we found no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, he felt obliged to say, well, it may have happened, we just didn't find it. And, of course, that is fodder for the Democrats to start screaming about impeachment.
Yeah, you know something, Mike? This guy is supposed to be a man of stature, and this is his quote. He says, "If we had the confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so." I mean, what the hell is this investigation about? I mean, if you had evidence, then he committed a crime. He's indict him. If not, shut up. I mean, it is just unbelievable that a man at his so-called stature and the Bob Mueller. We all know that Mueller is a deep state assassin and a criminal, bad, dirty cop. I mean, he's as dirty as they get. But
Yeah.
I think we all ought to be cheerful that this is going on, because this tells me that the deep state is in big trouble. To have him to get on the horn and get him to come out and do this. First of all, he won't go before Congress. That ought to tell you something. And then for him to pull this stunt tells me that all his buddies, Comey and all of them, are sweating bullets, and they know the hammer is about to fall. And that's what we've all been waiting for. Personally, I think Trump should speed this whole thing up to get that D-class information out there right now and possibly declare martial law the minute he gets any signal intelligence that they're attempting a false flag. That would be, if I was Trump, I'd send the word out through the intelligence agencies and such, that if we get any kind of info that there's a false flag in the works, we're going to declare martial law and allow this process to play out through civilian channels. But personally, I think the deep state are such a bunch of maniacs. They might pull some kind of a huge false flag to save their system. And before that should happen, once again, I think the president should, I'm sure they're monitoring all the intelligence. They have the good guys and the bad guys, obviously. And the minute you get any kind of word that there might be something in the works, I think that we need a state of martial law to prevent it. We can't have another 9/11. And I think that Trump has the justification, and I really hope they don't stall on these, declassifications of all this information. Because that's really, I mean, I saw panic in Bob Mueller when I saw him today. And when I saw his little move, and I'm never going to ever going to talk about it, I thought of a petulant little child. I mean, really, this guy is supposed to be like so great. Lindsey Graham and both sides love this guy. What a clown. What a little bitch clown. And,
yeah.
If that's the best the deep state has, boy, Trump should be able to roll him up real soon. And I hope he does, because he can't wait too long. I know he likes playing games. It's almost like, a cat with a string. But I think these are dangerous people, and they have to be treated as dangerous people.
I agree.
That's just my opinion.
I agree. I've been saying all along it's time for Trump to put on those presidential brass knuckles.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's so many trigger points in the world that they can ratchet up and start a war that he's, I think personally, I think that they really have them all electronically being monitored to the point where maybe they have been somewhat defanged, but there's probably some dangerous people out there that want to, what do they call that when you're playing a game and you're losing and you just throw the game up the board? You turn it overturning the board. I could just see them doing that. These are crazed, lunatic, demons, really.
Yeah.
And they're as corrupt as they get, and they belong in prison. And I'm just hoping that I get to witness that. And the one thing that
me
worries
too.
me-
I'd like to see that happen, especially with Hillary. I'd like to see her marched off to jail with handcuffs on, after everything that they've done, going back to Vince Foster.
And
Okay,
that's
well,
the
Joe,
thing that
we're going to
worries
let you go here, and we're going to switch over to Tony in Puerto Rico. Aloha, Tony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Aloha. Listen, when are the Democrats are going to stop? Please, Democrats, stop it. Poor JFK must be turning in his grave right now. But that's not why I'm calling, Mike. I'm calling in regards to World War II in Germany. Why was Germany not aware that an attack was going to come from Normandy, and they were more concerned with Pas-de-Calais?
Well, it was a deception operation. I mean, the only ones who knew where the invasion was going to actually happen were the overlords, and that was a very small group of people who were very well protected. And they put out a lot of disinformation. They used General Patton They built a phony army around him aimed at Calais because of some of the political problems he'd been into. They even had these inflatable tanks and artillery pieces that they were putting out on display to fool the Germans into thinking it was at Calais. And on D-Day, when Normandy was being stormed, much of the German military was at Calais and remained at Calais on the orders of Hitler himself.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Okay, so apparently Mad Maxine Waters is out there on a rant again. Another tweet storm. And she's calling President Trump a traitor and a porn star fornicator. And just a lot of this abuse and invective, none of which is productive. But it does, I think, illustrate the degree of childishness that our political system has descended into in the last year, where it's just this name calling and abuse. That other caller was right. Trump should sue for slander. Okay, let's talk about the economic news here a little bit. The United States is now threatening Europe with a loss of access to the U.S. financial system, and this is all because of their continuing to do business with Iran and not use the SWIFT system. This could very well turn out to be hoisting with our own petard, because more and more countries would like to not use SWIFT anymore, because that is the weapon that the United States uses to enforce its sanctions. If you're using SWIFT, you will do what the United States tells you to do. If you're off of SWIFT, well, then you get to go your own way. So the U.S. is threatening penalties against Germany, Great Britain, and France, who are still continuing to do trade with Iran, despite the U.S. sanctions. I think the world is getting tired of U.S. sanctions. I really, really do here. Okay, China has issued yet another warning. Don't say we didn't warn you, which is a diplomatic term usually reserved by Beijing to signal the start of an armed warfare. In this case, what they're talking about is a threat to stop exporting the essential rare earth elements that are needed for nuclear power plants and LED lights, smartphones, laptops, and so forth. If they cut those off, yes, the United States has got some rare earth element mines. They don't have enough to meet our domestic demand. So this is a serious, serious threat. So China has announced it's seriously considering restricting exports to the United States of rare earths, 17 chemical elements used in hospital scanners, nuclear power stations, LED lights. China accounted for 80% of rare earth imports between 2014 and 2017 to the United States. That is a serious, serious matter to be without those rare earth elements. Okay, according to Bank of America, job cuts in the auto industry are now the highest since the so-called recovery began. We were reporting yesterday that some 38,000 auto workers worldwide have been let go over the last few years. And part of it is due to the increasing use of automation. The other part is due to shutting down shifts. People aren't buying the new cars. People are sticking with the older cars. We've got this overflow lot, bottom of the hill. It's just jam-packed. They can't move product. Don't talk to me about a recovery. It's just not there. And by the way, the stock market is not doing well today. Okay. Down in Mexico, there is a bank, Monex Casa del Bolso, aka Holding Monex. It's a Mexican financial institution founded in 1985. It is one of the world's largest providers of commercial foreign exchange. On its website, Monex says it engages in both corporate and private banking and boasts that it is an institution formed by leading companies in financial and payment businesses that provide services and specialized products in the national and international market in an innovative manner with the highest ethical and quality standards. Blah, 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 blah. Now, Monex Casa del Bolsero provides banking services to foreigners visiting or doing business in Mexico, as well as many American expats living in Mexico. Mostly retirees, they have to navigate a society with few legal and financial protections than they get in the U.S. And unfortunately, those Americans recently discovered their money in their Monex bank accounts has simply disappeared. Now, this is a prestigious bank. This isn't just some hole-in-the-wall shopping center, mom and pop, dad's bank. This is a major bank, and now they're starting to pillage their American clients' money. Now, maybe that's part of the hostility from the immigration issues. Maybe it's just because Monex is in trouble and needs the money. But if you are an expat, an American expat, a retiree in another country, you might want to think about having your money spread out among multiple banks and have some in silver and gold in your home. Don't tell anybody it's there. You'll get robbed. But just spread it out. Don't put it in one bank where it can all of a sudden disappear. All right, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we're going to mention it again. Amazon, the doom of brick and mortar stores all over America, they're now planning to cut their ties with thousands of small vendors. And Amazon has announced, as of yesterday, they're going to cease bulk ordering for thousands of mostly smaller suppliers. Now, this was being reported by Bloomberg. Amazon is disputing the report. And Amazon is saying that we informed Bloomberg prior to publication of their article that their sources and story were wrong. And Amazon said, we review our selling partner relationships on an individual basis as part of our normal course of business, and any speculation of a large-scale reduction of vendors is incorrect. Like any business, we make changes when we see an opportunity to provide customers with improved selection, value, and convenience, and we do this thoughtfully and considerably on a case-by-case basis. So I don't know who put out that headline that Amazon was cutting thousands of small vendors off. And obviously for those small vendors, it's good news that Amazon is saying, no, it's more fake news. So I'm wondering where Bloomberg got this and why they went ahead with it when Amazon made the point of contacting them and saying, no, this is simply not true. Okay, down on the southern border, We Build the Wall, which is this nonprofit founded by triple amputee veteran Brian Kolfage, boasts former White House chief strategist and former Breitbart executive Steve Bannon as its director, while former Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach is the effort's general counsel. And they have built a mile-long segment of border wall on private property. It took them only 3 days to do it, near El Paso, Texas. So we're starting to see more and more private parties. Over in New Mexico, where there's another crowd-funded wall being built, the mayor of Sunland Park, New Mexico, has issued a cease and desist order to the private group that raised millions to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, basically saying they don't have the appropriate permits for construction. And so they're basically saying you can't build that wall. And they still have the GoFundMe out there. They've raised $22 million. But apparently this mayor of Sunland Park has just decided, no, you don't have the appropriate permits. You can't build that wall here. So they issued the cease and desist order yesterday. And I imagine this is going to go to court. Now, Pope Francis is out there comparing Trump's border wall to the Berlin Wall, which was built in 1961 to keep East Germans from escaping to West Berlin and freedom. Well, I think the Pope is a little out of line there, comparing apples and oranges. All right, we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slows circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're talking about Pope Francis, who's comparing the border wall on our southern border to the Berlin Wall. And it's a bit of a reach because the Berlin Wall was built by East Germany, not West Germany. And they were trying to keep their people in. Now, maybe if Mexico was building the wall to keep their people in, you might have a legitimate comment. But the Pope is obviously a globalist and open borders person, except, of course, they've got some really huge walls there at Vatican City. I know, I've been there. All righty. Apparently, Ilhan Omar came out with a tweet that suggested Latino immigrants aren't capable of competing in a merit-based immigration system, which is Donald Trump is saying he wants to bring in. You know, if you have something that you can bring to our society, you're in. Otherwise, you're out, which I think is perfectly fine. So Ilhan Omar came on out and said, well, this is going to discriminate against Latino immigrants. And Ted Cruz came on out and said, you realize that what you're saying is racist. Anyway, so Omar is out there basically saying that any restrictions on immigration are racist. They're not racist. Illegal is not a race. And I get tired of the same arguments over and over and over again. Because we have a right to protect our borders, to protect our indigenous population from this flood of illegal immigrants. And by the way, National Geographic is running a show right now based on the book The Hot Zone. And I'm not going to give away the surprise and happy ending. But we know right now in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there is an Ebola outbreak. It is infecting humans. It has a 60% lethality rate. And they can't get a control on the people who are carrying it. So what happens if some of those people make it to Mexico and walk across our open border? Anybody stop to think about that? That would be a serious, serious problem. Anyway. All right, we're coming up here on station identification. We'll be back after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And apparently over at Fort Bragg, 2 of their soldiers and 2 African immigrants have been indicted by a North Carolina grand jury for basically what amounts to be immigration fraud. And apparently there was a ring of soldiers who paired up female soldiers with foreign citizens, basically to get married, to exchange legal residency for Army marriage benefits and cash. And this is hardly something that is confined to the military. In fact, I was aware that this was going on in Los Angeles, where foreigners who wanted to become U.S. citizens would come to this country. They would offer a huge amount of money to a young man or a young woman to marry them. They would get married, they would become citizens, and then down the road they'd file for a quickie divorce. And that was basically it. And I forget what the going price for that was, but it wasn't cheap. So apparently they got onto this base at Fort Bragg, and it involved apparently the investigation goes back to December, after Army officials notified federal agents that a female soldier at Fort Bragg had entered into a contract marriage arranged by other soldiers with a Ghanaian immigrant. Okay. Over the last weekend, of course, we had the European Union elections. The results were spectacular, to say the least. The populists and the nationalists did very well. The Remainers did very, very poorly. It looks like basically the people of Europe have expressed their wishes to not be more integrated, but to go back to being sovereign individual nation states. Now, the final results of the EU elections are still trickling in, but the overall picture is pretty clear. Euro-federalists have lost ground. They still outnumber the Eurosceptics, but not by much. And it's the first time ever in the European Parliament's 40-year history that the giant Europhile EPP and S&D blocs haven't had a majority between them. However, the equally Europhile ALDE group has 115 members of parliament to throw into the mix now, so the EU Parliament can continue its rubber stamping untroubled. But I think the writing is on the wall for the next election. Now, one of the parties that did really well all across Europe were the Greens. And besides the Brexit Party, the Greens were big winners in Germany, France, Austria, Sweden, Ireland, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Great Britain. And in the conservative mindset, green issues are one of those politically neutral, morally and socially positive causes you can embrace without betraying your principles or alienating your base. Going green is a safe bet. So, but apparently there's now a concern that the Greens need to be disposed of because they are dividing the vote. And had the Greens not been in there, the Eurosceptics might have taken a majority. And it's entirely possible. Okay, Remainer John Barco has vowed to stay on as Speaker of the House of Commons past July after threatening to block a no-deal Brexit. Now, this risks sparking a French rift with Eurosceptic Tories, who have accused him of using his supposedly neutral role in Parliament to try and keep Britain in the European Union. Supposedly, Barco's term as Speaker of the House of Commons is supposed to end in July. But he's threatening he's going to stay, he's not going to step down, and he's going to block the no-deal Brexit, which more and more people seem to think is what is about to happen. Story out of the Daily Mail. European leaders will delay Brexit again and again and again to avoid getting the blame for a no deal if Boris Johnson or Dominic Raab try to tear up the withdrawal agreement. So this is what it's coming on down to. Will there be some kind of a deal or not? And of course, every deal that's been put forward so far has been to basically give Europe the keys to the kingdom, to reduce Brexit to in name only, if you will. And that's why Theresa May got into trouble. So a lot of people are saying just a no-deal Brexit. Let's just tear it up and just leave. So apparently, Brussels is opposing any attempt by Britain to leave with no deal by trying to force more delays on the Great Britain. And the EU is said to be preparing to extend Article 50 more than once if the new Tory leader tears up Theresa May's deal with the bloc. So we have these candidates out there. Boris Johnson, Dominic Raab, Andrea Leadsom, and Esther McVey have all said they will pull Britain out with no deal unless the EU rips up the Irish backstop from Mrs. May's withdrawal agreement. And Eurocrats are ready to shove Britain back to the wall and delay Brexit after October 31st if a hard Brexiteer takes over as Prime Minister, which I think at this point is very, very likely. And it just goes on and on and on. Just leave. Just leave. There's nothing in Article 50 that says there has to be a deal. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Okay, the EU Parliament is basically looking at gains among the Eurosceptics. They had a surge of right-wing parties in the European Parliament elections that will enable them to form a strong, what they describe as patriotic faction. Jörg Meuthen, the federal spokesman for the Eurosceptic Alternative for Germany political party and its lead candidate in the vote. And the victory of the populist parties in most European countries will enable us to form a strong patriotic faction in the EU Parliament. We should reach 25% of the total numbers of the members of Parliament. That's definitely very, very significant. I think the next time elections come around, I think the Eurosceptics might take it. Fox News is still going on about how Mueller has resigned and disbanded the special counsel's office. It's like nothing else is going on in the world. There are no wars anywhere. There are no bombs falling. So we'll talk about Mueller all day here. Alrighty. Now, the victory of the right-wing parties in Italy, France, and Great Britain is just the first step toward changing EU rules and policies, according to Italian journalist Daniele Pozzatti, who shared his vision on opportunities and obstacles in the way of the political right in the European Parliament. And he's out there saying a new Europe has been born, founded on work, freedom, people, and rights. This came from Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini, following the League's Sunday victory in the European Parliament elections. So, Politico argued that the League's victory is likely to have more impact at home than at Brussels, but it will have an impact. The message is clear. Yes, the Europhiles are still in charge of the European Parliament, but by a slim margin. And the message has been sent. The people of Europe do not want more integration. They don't want a federalized European Union. They want to go back to being their own separate, sovereign, independent nations with their own cultures and closed borders. That's what they want. Okay. Getting into the world of political correctness, up in Sweden, the Swedish government is getting ready to ban ancient Viking symbols on the basis that they constitute incitement to hatred. And the official reason for banning the runes is that Nazis used some of them during the Second World War, such as the Odal rune, that means O, and the Tyr Tuaz rune, that means T. And reportedly, the Social Democratic Minister of Justice, Morgan Johansson, is behind the initiative. According to the proposal, Old Norse symbols and jewelry may also be banned as incitement to hatred. This includes the hammer of the Norse god Thor, the Valknut, Odin's knot, and the Vegvisir, which I have no idea what that is. But again, they're ripping their culture apart in the name of social justice. And I think that's utterly ridiculous, especially Thor's hammer. That is such an icon for all those people descended from the Vikings. It's just absolutely silly. Absolutely silly. Okay, yesterday we were talking about how Chuck Canterbury Jr. was nominated to become the next ATF director, and he came on in saying that he was a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Well, maybe not. Over at the National Association for Gun Rights, their president, Dudley Brown, is warning that this guy is an anti-gunner. And apparently, Canterbury has a long history of publicly supporting and endorsing anti-gun policies, anti-gun Supreme Court nominees, and anti-gun high-ranking government officials. In his official capacity as president of the National Fraternal Order of Police, Canterbury has supported radical anti-gun Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor, supported former Attorney General Eric Holder, Obama's head honcho who ran the Fast and Furious gun running program, and he's also supported expanding the federal government's gun registration schemes. So, another poor choice by Donald Trump. Another poor choice by Donald Trump. Let's see. Looking at my email, and I've got an email about the Pope. I'm sure that Pope Francis sleeps very nicely at night, knowing he has a nice, huge wall surrounding the Vatican. Though it was built in the 800s, it did help the future popes from attacking them. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that going on. Let's see. Apparently, All right, I just typed a message to our control room. So let's talk about computers. If you travel, you know that there are these airport charging stations where you can plug in your smartphone and laptop and just get a free charge. Well, apparently hackers are now basically breaking into those and adding malware. It's called juice jacking. And these USB ports are modified to install malware on your phone or steal your data. Boy, you can't get away from these guys, can you? So, security experts are issuing a warning to travelers to think twice about using the airport charging stations because it does put you at risk. Gee, I'm wondering if maybe somebody could come up with a charging cable that just carries the 5-volt signal and blocks off anything that's higher frequency than that. That would be a safe charging cable. Wouldn't be able to do anything else with it, but at least you'd know that you were kind of... Okay, somebody just said they have those. Yeah, okay, apparently. Good idea. Somebody's already built it. Okay, we're all fans of Google Earth, or if you're not, you should be. It's a great deal of fun, even though the pictures can be years out of date. It's great for basically traveling around in virtual space, seeing the world, seeing the geology. I remember when I first started playing with it, that was my primary interest, and that goes way back when it was still called Keyhole, and long before they had the 3D buildings and any of that stuff. But it is a powerful tool. It's great for kids to learn geography, geology, and see some historic places without actually having to go there. Well, apparently the Army has now one-upped that with a new mapping technology that's expected to transform training and simulation exercises. And apparently they unveiled it at the IEEE Transportation Electrification Conference and Expo last May 15th in Stockholm, Sweden. And apparently this new sort of Google Earth on steroids actually looks inside buildings. Now, I don't know how they get the data or whether they're simply intuiting what the interior of the building actually looks like. I haven't seen this system myself, but that would be very, very, very impressive. Okay. A co-founder of Wikipedia is saying that Wikipedia is broken. It is run by bad actors and special interests to smear all voices of dissent. Yes, they're absolutely correct. I mean, on matters of technical issues, yeah, Wikipedia is very reliable. When you get into politics, it is very much skewed, very liberal in its approach. Years ago, a long time ago, there were Wikipedia articles about whatreallyhappened.com and Michael Rivero. And somebody got into the article about Michael Rivero and put some untruths in there. So I got into the article on Michael Rivero and corrected the untruths. The next day I came back, the untruths had been replaced. And when I tried to correct it, I was locked out of the article on the excuse that Michael Rivero was not considered an expert on Michael Rivero. And I went public on that, and the articles about me, okay, the articles about me were simply deleted. So I have been banned from the Wikipedia universe. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a couple of tech issues here. Okay. The Supreme Court of the United States has upheld a portion of the Indiana abortion law that requires aborted babies' remains to be buried or cremated. In other words, they're given a proper funeral and not just sold off to a flavoring company. We got to take a break here for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. So let's talk a little bit about Kratom. There's still a debate going on as to whether it's going to be scheduled and made unavailable. And as a matter of fact, the local health food store where we had been buying Kratom for Claire has stopped carrying it in advance of an FDA ban. And on a personal note, that stuff got us through the first 3 months of Claire's back injury, when we couldn't get her into Straub, and we knew something was wrong with the back. We didn't know what. We didn't realize she had a fracture. And the only pain management we could get was the Kratom. So, Kratom is a Southeast Asian tree, long history of use in traditional medicine in the region, and the plant's leaves are widely consumed for pain relief, treatment of opioid addiction, and other uses. Now, its efficacy and safety are officially unproven, but Kratom use has spread to the US and Europe. Now that researchers are starting to study it seriously and look at its natural pain relief benefits, and researchers reporting in ACS Central Science that a metabolite of a Kratom alkaloid could be responsible for the treatment's therapeutic effects. Now, this is something coming out of nature. It's not coming out of a laboratory. And of course, that explains the reason to ban it, to keep us dependent on what's coming out of the, pharmaceutical corporations. There have been attempts to limit all kinds of supplements. They banned nanosilver for a while until public outcry got that rescinded. They've been talking about trying to basically outlaw do-it-yourself vitamins. They want those to be prescription. And it's all about making you dependent on the pharmaceutical corporations. And I think we're at a time right now where we should be working on declaring our freedom and our independence from corporate medicine, given that so many of their products are in fact harmful and less effective than what we find in nature. And speaking of nature, one of the other things that Claire and I like to use is called Manuka honey. Now, this comes from down in Australia, and Manuka is the name of a flower. And so there is this bee colony, apiary, that is right next to a field where the Manuka flower grows, and the bees will get the pollen from the Manuka blossoms, and they bring it back and they make their honey. And Manuka honey is famous for being an antibiotic, and it outperforms antibiotics in treating respiratory infections. Manuka honey killed 90% of the bacteria tested. This is really good stuff. Unfortunately, it's a little pricey, but you can get it at places like Down to Earth and other health food stores. So they're looking at this as possibly a treatment for cystic fibrosis patients, following preliminary work by experts at Swansea University. And again, this is from nature. It's something that we have co-evolved with. And the big pharmaceutical industries, they don't want you to know about this stuff. They don't want you knowing about these natural treatments that work very, very well. Even though many of the pills and capsules being sold by the pharmaceutical corporations are derived from natural sources. They just want to run it through their factory, put their trademark on it, and put a price markup on it. So it's a big scam. It's just a huge, huge scam. All right, yesterday we were talking about SpaceX, pardon me, and how they launched a total of 60 satellites for the Starlink constellation with a single launch. That's a record. And at least for the moment, those of you able to see the Starlink constellation. It's just these 60 satellites are flying more or less in a straight line across the sky. And I really do need to see if there's somebody who's out there with a prediction of where and when it can be seen. And eventually they're going to start drifting apart because they're aiming for a large, where they're ultimately going to be in the constellation. Meanwhile, they're starting the investigation of the Dragon spacecraft explosion. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials. We got a caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective, and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate. I want to do...
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go back to the phones here to Al in Canada. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi,
Hi, Mike. I called to talk to you about pain relief. Seeing this, I'm in a bunch of it right now with all the all the wetness going on up here in Canada, all the rain and such. Glucosamine.
Yes.
Heard of it?
Yes.
Turmeric.
Yes.
Right. Melatonin.
We haven't played with that one.
To help you sleep. Right.
Yeah.
Tart cherry juice.
Yes.
Have you ever tried that one?
Yeah, back when I was dealing with gout.
Yeah. And then, of course, something that's probably illegal, in your country, in your state, pot, the indica strain.
Well, we're allowed to have medical marijuana in Hawaii. It's not legal for recreational, but if you can get a doctor to prescribe it for you, you can get it here.
Right?
Yep.
If you can get a doctor, yeah. I bet you you would probably have the same problems that people used to have up here in Canada, where the doctor was always worried about losing his license because of, you've got people looking to basically either grow marijuana or whatever, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the indica strain, it's the Melaware strain, obviously, right? Supposed to be good for alleviating pain, insomnia, relaxing muscles. Some people don't like the buzz, right? And so that's a big problem, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, that. Unfortunately, that's about all I know. I know that you're in a very wet environment where you live.
Yes.
And that doesn't help, does it?
Well, I mean, the salt air, basically chewed up my black powder guns, which weren't properly blued when we moved here, and I didn't open them for like 4 months until after we got here, and that's when I realized what a mistake I'd made. But yeah, it's very wet, it's very damp, very salty, very corrosive.
So does the dampness bother your joints?
It's kind of hard to say, where our joint pains are coming from. But I suppose we'll find that out this fall when we move to Indiana, which is going to be a lot drier. And hopefully that's going to make our joint pains a lot better.
Mike, I can guarantee it will. I can guarantee it, because when I turned about 42, I was out in Nova Scotia in the springtime. It's kind of damp, really damp out there, and that's when I found out I had had osteoarthritis. I couldn't even lift my arms over my head.
Yeah.
And this year I'm taking a real beating with all of this rain. That's why I'm mentioning all this stuff. I'm taking all of it. All of it. Instead of, stuff like acetaminophen, which obviously is bad for your kidneys and liver.
Yes.
And, ibuprofen, the NSAIDs, and there are worse ones than that, right?
Yes.
So, it's heating pads, a big friend too sometimes, right?
Well, we've just discovered that in addition to her spinal fracture, Claire also has osteoarthritis of the spine. So we're going more with the cold packs and the back brace. And as a matter of fact, after the show today, I have to take her back to the doctor.
Yeah, I understand what you're going through. Osteoarthritis is not a good thing. Obviously you've heard of some of the stuff I've mentioned here. Whether or not it works or not, I don't know. But at least I'm not taking, the medications that can cause harm.
Yes.
Because I need, sometimes the pain, Mike, is so unbearable, right? I just turn the shower on as hot as I can stand it and just stand inside of it, waiting for some of this, some of these aches and pains to go away. So I feel for you. I hope you have a good show, Mike, and good luck with the Indiana move. I bet you it works out for you, drier climate.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to that, not to mention the lower cost of living. It's just gotten too expensive here on this rock. And, after all these years on this island, I'm getting island fever. It's a very small place. I've seen everything there is to see. And, for somebody who's a geology fan, it's a little bit boring. It's the wonderful world of basalt, and that's about it. So, yeah, I'm ready to go back to the heartland of America. And of course, the other fact is, I get asked to speak at a lot of symposiums and conventions, but they don't have the money to bring me all the way from Hawaii. So if I'm in the middle of the country, Indiana, I'm going to be able to go out and do a lot more public speaking. And I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, listen, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. Getting on back to the news here, we're talking about how they're starting the investigation into the destruction of SpaceX's astronaut taxi. And I mean, looking at the footage, basically it looks like one of the emergency escape thrusters simply exploded. And unfortunately, it blew the spacecraft up, the Dragon capsule. So SpaceX and NASA have managed to clean up the accident site. They're now focusing on what caused the mishap. And yeah, I wish them a lot of luck. What can I tell you? I wish them a lot of luck. Okay, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei has basically signaled that it's a waste of time holding more negotiations with the United States, describing it as a total loss, fruitless, and harmful. And Iran will absolutely not sit for talks with America because, first, it bears no fruit. Second, it is harmful. And I can understand why he's coming from that position, because the United States walks away from its agreements. Trump pulled out of the P5+1 agreement, just walked away from it. So why make another agreement with the United States of America with that kind of behavior? Alrighty, Turkey has sent some of their servicemen to Russia to train on the S-400 missile system, despite pressure from the United States. And Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar says the delivery of the Russian-built S-400 missiles to his country might be delayed until after June, irrespective of U.S. pressure and threats of more sanctions on Ankara over the purchase. So this is what the United States does. Don't buy their weapons, buy our weapons, or we'll sanction you here. Apparently, we've gone back to the days of McCarthyism. And I'm looking at this story here about Russian immigrants to this country who are just being interviewed by FBI agents. They haven't done anything. They don't know anything, but they're just being checked out. So, anyway. George Galloway is out there saying that Brexit bludgeon batters Britain's politics all over again. He's certainly right about that. It was a tremendous upset. And it's a real mess over there. And hopefully they're going to get it settled down. They're going to be able to finally get out of the EU. I know the EU does not want them to leave. They're trying to figure some way they can derail this. But I think this last EU election really kind of sent a message. The people living in the EU don't like the EU. And they really want to go back to being sovereign, independent nations with closed borders. Mostly the part about the closed borders. Okay. All right. So, getting on back to China and the trade war, we were talking earlier about the rare earth elements, but China has another hammer that they could bring to the table, and that is dumping the $1 trillion of U.S. debt that they hold. You know, just dump it on the market and discount it, and that would play havoc with the U.S. dollar around the world, play havoc with our own domestic economy. All of this push for globalism and interconnected economies and everything, they really didn't think it all the way through as to how it could be weaponized against us. But here we are. Apparently, last Saturday, Trump doubled down on his promises to work to eliminate the trade deficit with China, warning that the trade deal between the two countries would become far worse to Beijing if it had to be negotiated in his second term, if he gets one, and telling the Chinese not to daydream about him being defeated in the 2020 elections so that a Democrat would give them a better agreement. I'm sure that's probably exactly what the Chinese are waiting for. So apparently Trump is threatening to slap a 25% tariff on the remaining $325 billion in goods coming from China. So, up in Afghanistan, the Taliban is claiming that it shot down a U.S. B-52 bomber. And basically they're claiming that they shot the aircraft down while it was taking off from Shalrab Air Base in southern Afghanistan, apparently earlier today. Now, neither Afghan or U.S. authorities are commenting on the matter. They're not saying anything. But yeah, when they're down low, they're vulnerable. And apparently, the Taliban targeted the bomber with heavy weapons. And the B-52 was said to have crashed after the strike, killing all the crew. All right. Now, Saddam Hussein's granddaughter lives in Jordan, and she has a Canadian university degree. She's got a family. She's authored a book, and she's out there basically going public, talking about what life was like under U.S. occupation, and saying that it was a terrible experience to go through, having to flee Iraq when it was under attack by the United States. And basically they left Iraq, they went to Syria, now they're in Jordan, and saying it was a terrible, terrible experience to go through. Iraq was just ruined by the U.S. intervention, if you will. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. James in Ohio. Aloha, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was wondering, do you have a P.O. box address in Hawaii where people can send you things?
No, we just have the street address that's on the donate page.
Okay, all right. Well, I've had a kind of a dearth of work, but next Saturday I will be sending you some things for Claire's back injury. One would be a kilogram of Kraton, and it's free, of course, and some magnesium chloride, which is awesome for arthritis and all kinds of inflammation. Magnesium chloride solution, you spray it on. I've watched two people with swollen arthritic knees. They sprayed it on, and over a period of about 15 minutes, they went down to normal size, and the pain was completely relieved. And then some allantoin as well, which the natural allantoin you don't want to get from the comfrey plant because it has toxic alkaloids, but the synthetic allantoin does not have this. Comfrey, however, is known as knit bone because In the Merck Index of Chemicals and Biologicals, it's listed as a cellular proliferant, and it works with bone or nervous tissue or any tissue. It's extremely non-toxic. I took 5 grams orally by mouth for a few months. Then I cut the dosage down to 2 grams. But I just found a paper from, it's a patent application actually, that showed that allantoin stops things like Parkinson's and related illnesses, neurodegenerative illnesses like ALS and Alzheimer's, stops it in its tracks. However, the patent application from 2012 was abandoned, and probably the reason was, you can do this yourself, and it's a natural product, so there's a question as to whether it can be patented or not.
Well, I know the pharmaceutical corporations have tried patenting natural substances, and they've run into some resistance at the court. And of course, it would be absurd for them to be granted patents on things that come from nature, but it just shows how greedy they are.
The thing about allantoin is, and I'll send you some of this too, you want to take a high dose of folic acid, and you want to, of course, take your other nutrients that you need, minerals and vitamins, but folic acid in particular, because there is no new cell growth without folic acid, and that's why they prescribe it for pregnant women, but probably everybody should be on it, from childhood to old age. And I've seen some remarkable results with allantoin myself. I combined it with a few other things, and I think I have something that will dramatically impact quite a few different problems. But I hear the music, so I'll let you go.
James, I'm going to have to let you go. Thank you for the phone call. Thank you for the gifts. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha America, welcome back to our show here, and we're going to be going back to the phones to Jim in Chicago. Aloha Jim, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey Mike, it's Tim, a first-time caller. I'm a millennial, kind of a younger listener. I wanted to comment today, first and foremost. I saw all the money junkies over there on CNBC. They are clamoring now for not one but two interest rate cuts, saying this is the only way we can keep this thing going. It's just very, very fascinating. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to kind of, get your opinions, was on the dancing Israelis. That this story doesn't really seem to be picked up by too many outlets, but that whole story kind of seems to be confirmed. And the part that's frustrating for me is when I try and, educate people, it's just the apathy. So with that, I'll hang up, and I want to hear your reaction.
Well, I don't know so much that it's apathy, is that people out of a misplaced sense of loyalty just sort of stay silent and go along with the official version of events, even though in their heart of hearts they may have their own doubts. As far as the corporate media, they're never going to ever report on anything that challenges that official story of 9/11, because they're heavily invested in maintaining that fairy tale. So you're not going to hear the story about the dancing Israelis. In fact, I remember just about the time that 9/11 came out, Carl Cameron over at Fox News had done a 4-part story on the largest foreign spy ring ever uncovered in the United States by the FBI, and it was spying for Israel. And I remember watching the story, and the other commentators around Carl Cameron were out there saying, oh, but they had nothing to do with 9/11. Really, they had nothing to do with 9/11. They just kept pushing that as hard as they possibly could. And so Fox News basically took down the 4-part story. They went after websites that were running the videos of the 4-part story, but they couldn't get them all, and it's still up on YouTube. So as far as the dancing Israelis, they were obviously in a very good mood. They were pleased by what they were seeing. Witnesses said they arrived before that first aircraft impacted the towers. The video that they shot has never been released publicly, because obviously if it shows the first impact, that right there is prima facie evidence. They knew ahead of time what was going to happen. Some of these dancing Israelis turned out to be Mossad agents. They were all working for a company called Urban Moving Systems, and moving companies are used for cover by Israeli intelligence assets. And the owner of Urban Moving Systems basically left for Israel the very next day, 9/12. So there's a lot to indicate that Israel was part of this false flag operation. I don't think they did it all by themselves. I think by the fact that the Secret Service let George W. Bush sit in that school without evacuating him, that they too knew what the targets of the attack were going to be. And so it was a joint U.S.-Israeli operation. We're going to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, if you want to call on in here. So going back and looking at some of the headlines that have been coming out over the last couple of hours here, John Bolton is still making the rounds, saying that Iran is almost certainly behind the oil tanker attacks. Of course, he has no proof of it whatsoever. I think they botched the job. I think they intended to set at least one, if not two, of those oil tankers afire for some really good video. And whatever limpet mines they were using just weren't up to it here. Looking at the economic news, Abercrombie & Fitch are going to close 3 more flagship stores. Another sign of retail Mageddon. And apparently, Julian Assange is reported to be gravely ill. He's in the hospital wing at Belmarsh Prison. His lawyer is saying that he's in such a state he's unable to have a conversation. Well, that's certainly convenient for those who don't want him talking about what's been going on, especially with Seth Rich. But I'm starting to wonder if he'll ever actually make it to a court trial here. Okay. Nigel Farage, who's riding high on his EU victory, is out there saying there's a lot of hate going on in Brussels. And it's being directed basically at the Eurosceptics. The Europhiles, the globalists, the New World Order people, they're absolutely upset that anybody would not want to be part of their glorious dream of one planet, one government, one private central bank, one slab of cement. Over at Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton is talking about the problem of massive voter fraud and saying that Judicial Watch has estimated at least 900,000 illegal aliens voted in the midterms. And new numbers out of Texas and Pennsylvania suggest foreign nationals illegally voting in massive numbers. So it is a problem. And it's going to hand the Democrats the election in 2020 if it's not cleaned up here. Okay, we were talking about pharmaceutical companies. Did you know they have a huge carbon footprint? Apparently, big pharma companies create 13% more carbon emissions making medicine than car makers. Now, that's rather interesting here. And apparently, Apple's earnings may plummet by 26% due to the escalating U.S. trade war. China may ban the iPhone in response to Trump blacklisting Huawei. This is really getting out of control. Samsung is going to make out like a bandit. Okay. We already talked about that. And let's see. Somebody wrote a story talking about CNBC trying to, shall we say, normalize being poor to millennials, saying that, living on $60,000 a year in New York City, they're calling it millennial money. And I don't know about you, but I'm starting to see all these little TV shows about these tiny houses, these micro houses that people are living in. And I remember when I was a kid, the whole idea of the American dream was upward mobility for everybody. And now they're trying to glamorize and sell us on downward mobility, so the money junkies can have more, which is really what it's all about. Okay. And let's see. Apparently, Boris Johnson has been hauled into court over claims he lied by saying that Great Britain gave the EU £350 million a week. And this is a prosecution launched by campaigner Marcus Ball, who crowdfunded £200,000 for the case. And Boris Johnson is saying this is clearly a politically motivated attempt to reverse Brexit. His lawyers said it's a stunt. Somebody added the comment about, how about suing Tony Blair for all of his lies? And boy, there were a bunch of them. Remember when Tony Blair was out there screaming that Saddam Hussein could launch missiles in just 45 minutes, they would hit Great Britain. It turned out Saddam Hussein didn't have chemical weapons or biological weapons or nuclear weapons. All right, we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And again, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443 if you want to call on in. That would be a real help right now. Okay, so Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert, he's become a bit of an internet celebrity. And he does a lot of videos, does a lot of Twitter, and he makes a lot of very, very good points. He's got a lot of common sense here. Okay. Now, we've been talking about the concept of deep fakes, and this is video or photos that have been altered by computer software to make it look like somebody is either saying or doing something they did not actually say or do. And it's considered a major problem. I mean, the most recent iteration of having somebody say something that they didn't really say, there were some artifacts in the background that you could see. But they're getting better all the time. And at some point, we're going to reach that point where what we're being shown on corporate media is a computer-generated fake. Because we know corporate media's job is to lie to us, to put up videos of, for example, Ayatollah Khamenei screaming about how he's going to nuke Israel. Or Kim Kardashian getting up there and saying what a swell guy Harvey Weinstein is. So apparently, there are researchers who are now looking at artificial intelligence processors that will be able to determine whether a video or picture has been altered or not. And this will be a very, very powerful tool to determine the fakes. And hopefully it'll be something that we can all afford or avail ourselves of and take a look at. I still have my little lie detector here. I got this from Sharper Image many years ago, and I love to put it right next to the TV every time a politician is speaking. All righty. We already talked about the job cuts in the auto industry. And apparently there was a shooting down at the border in Mexico. And apparently there was this Mexican teenager shot in Mexico by the U.S. Border Patrol. And apparently the Supreme Court is getting ready to hear a case as to whether the parents of the Mexican teen shot in Mexico by the Border Patrol can sue the United States. Well, I'd like to know what that teenager was doing at the border in the first place. That would be a pretty good idea, I think. Story coming out of cuzblue.com. They're predicting that Trump will win in 2020. It's predicted by multiple models. And a voice many might not expect is heralding it. So we'll see what's happening there. And apparently this is coming from Stephen Ratner, who served as counselor to the Treasury Secretary in the Obama administration. And he's now out there cheering for Trump for next year. Getting on back to Christopher Steele, he is refusing to be questioned by the Department of Justice over that flaky dossier. And that's like flashing a red warning sign. Guilty, 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 guilty. Anyway. We talked about Everest, I think, yesterday. But apparently it's a big problem up there. 11 people have died in the past 10 days on Mount Everest due to overcrowding. People at the top cannot move around those climbing up, basically making them stuck in that death zone. To get to the top of Everest, or for that matter K2 or any of those super tall mountains, you have to get up there, plant your flag, and get back down before you start developing cerebral edema or pulmonary edema. And very often, along with the oxygen, they take dexedrine as well. But there is a time limit that you can stay in the death zone. And so I saw a picture, and it was just this solid line of people along that ridge. And there's no place where you can step off and turn around. You step out of that line, you are going down the face of that mountain. Okay. Getting on back to Amazon. Apparently Amazon is now removing books promoting dangerous bleach cures for autism and other conditions. I hadn't even heard about this. You know, that this was the latest fad, the latest craze. Alrighty. We talked about Mueller resigning. And we already talked about the emergencies declared in multiple Ohio counties. Apparently there is a Catholic high school, and it's in West Roxbury, Massachusetts, and they have undertaken to hold funerals for homeless veterans, and I think that's a very wonderful thing for them to do. And it is amazing how poorly the U.S. war machine treats our veterans. It really is. Okay, now we've talked about nuclear power in the past, and we've talked about how if it's done right, it is a source of clean energy, but there can be very dumb mistakes, as we saw at 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl and Fukushima. But there is now a hue and cry that because America has such a huge surplus of natural gas, that we're falling behind Russia and China in nuclear technology in terms of reactors, and that we need to basically upgrade so that we can compete in that marketplace. Russia sells reactors. They've sold one to Iran. They're getting ready to sell them another. And the U.S. wants a piece of that action. So they're going to start hopefully designing better reactors. I had serious doubts about the design that General Electric installed at Fukushima, in particular the fact that the control rods had to be shoved up from underneath rather than lowered down from above. And I have no idea why they did that. But obviously with the loss of motor power, you can't just cut the cord and let the control rods drop on in and shut off the reaction. So basically, Senators Mike Crapo and Sheldon Whitehouse, in an op-ed at CNBC, said the United States must protect its long-standing leadership on nuclear energy globally. And the lawmakers believe that reviving nuclear energy in the U.S. and developing new and advanced reactors will raise the share of clean energy generation in America on the one hand and reestablish U.S. leadership on the global market on the other. They're basically acknowledging we're not the global leader anymore. Okay, let's see. Scrolling on down here. This is an interesting little story. This came out of newscientist.com, and it's talking about this 3.3 billion year old rock that was found unexpectedly to contain organic matter that came from inside a meteor. Now, I know there's a lot of people who love the idea of panspermia as opposed to life evolving here, but we already know from other meteors it's a very messy place out there. And as we start to explore other bodies in our solar system, we have come to understand that many of the meteorites that we find here on Earth came from those other bodies. There are meteorites we know originated on the moon. There are meteorites that we know originated on Mars. When we start getting analysis back from, for example, the Jovian moons, we'll probably find that many of the meteorites on Earth came from there as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of dust and dirt being thrown around out there, and apparently some organic matter. I remember during the Clinton administration when they came out and announced they'd found what appeared to be microfossils in that Martian meteor. And the story kind of came and went, and a lot of people said, no, it couldn't be. And it almost seems like there is this cultural desire to be alone in the universe. I thought the fossils were very compelling, and as it turns out, there have been other reports by other scientists talking about, let's see. All right. I'm sorry, I got distracted here momentarily. There have been other reports by other scientists showing what appear to be microfossils in meteors. So the proof of life elsewhere in the universe may be literally right under our feet. And I think we need to be open to that idea. And again, I think there's probably intelligent life throughout the galaxy. I'm not concerned about it because I don't think we have anything that would interest them. And I know we've all grown up with all of these science fiction movies about, the Tet coming on in and stealing our water and cloning Tom Cruise as their enforcer. But again, if you look at the cost of slowing down, okay, Claire, I'll be in a minute. Okay, so I know we've grown up on those science fiction movies, but I don't think we really have to worry. What do we have that's worth the trouble of slowing down, coming down into our atmosphere, grabbing whatever it is they want to grab, and hauling back up out of the atmosphere and reaccelerating the speed? All right, we're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations. A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
Okay, and welcome back to our show here. And, okay. Looking at the ratings of the corporate media, apparently Tucker Carlson is just dominating. And as well he should. He tells the truth. He's very accurate. He's very fact-based. Meanwhile, of course, CNN is just sinking. And Tucker Carlson now has 3 times as many viewers as CNN during prime time. And that is a major, major problem. All right, we're going to take a phone call from Tom in Florida. Aloha, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, good day, Michael. Speaking of news networks, I was just watching OAN earlier.
Yeah.
A little bit ago. And they said, I don't know if you're familiar with that network, but they just said 4 out of 10 illegal aliens do not want to or do not expect to learn to speak English in America. I'm like, wait a minute. And they were showing immigration numbers every hour, like I told you. They showed that on One American News. But they're basically saying that 4 out of 10 illegals that come here over the last 5 years are not proficient in English. I don't know what you call that. Then that is a major takeover, isn't it?
Yeah, it basically is.
And million of them.
There's nothing new there. I mean, I remember when I lived in Los Angeles, the attitude of the Hispanic community was that the signs should all be in Spanish and that we should all learn to speak their language. And that's a far cry from a willingness to assimilate into society.
Well, you know, Michael, that's true. And here in South Florida, I don't know if you're familiar or your audience is familiar with this, but a lot of these federal government jobs, like in the federal department, the government jobs in the county government here, a lot of them are going to Hispanics, and a lot of them are not even citizens. I mean, what the heck is that, Michael?
That is utterly ridiculous.
You're bringing in people that are only been here 2-3 years, and they're getting federal paying government jobs. Now, that should shake the core of the nation right there in itself. Now, I don't know what's going on in Los Angeles or San Francisco or Phoenix, Arizona, but I know what's going on here in South Florida, and I see with my own eyes. But I'm sure over there it's even worse. I'm sure it's terribly worse over there. So my point is this, that I just don't know what's going to happen because and then when I saw One American News Network saying 4 out of 10 illegals don't want to learn to speak English, that is a takeover, like you say. That's a major takeover.
Yeah, that's a cultural
takeover.
takeover.
In Europe, the Muslims. Yeah, well, I'm sure that's probably happening in England, France, Germany, Italy. Probably the same kind of things happening in a different group. But I can tell you right now what I'm hearing and seeing on when One American News every hour is showing you how much illegal immigration is costing American taxpayers, how much hospitalization is costing, all these numbers they throw out every hour on the hour. It's like, what the heck is what's going on here? And like I told you many times, Michael, if Trump doesn't get that wall built and he doesn't really start arresting people for sanctuary cities, I have no faith in Trump or any of them. I really don't.
No, again, he's been this horrible, horrible disappointment. But if you go back to that Yale MIT study, there are roughly, they're just guessing here, but they're saying there's about 22 million illegal immigrants in this country. We need to figure out a way that we're going to round them all up and shove them back across the border. They should not be our problem. They should be the problem of their own home countries.
Well, Michael, according to One American News, it's much more than what you're saying. It's 26 million. They
Okay.
have their figures every hour, so you can watch it. It's almost 27 million, according to One American News Network, which is kind of a big network now, believe it or not. And they have the Ledger report and all that. But what's really got me flipping out about all this nonsense is just the sheer cost of the medical for these illegals. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you're paying for people like they have people coming in from Ecuador, Honduras, all these illegals all over the world. They're getting $200,000-$300,000 operations.
Yes.
It's amazing to me. Miami Herald wrote that up about 2 years ago. What it is, it's just amazing that this is going on. And, you know, I'll bring this up, Michael, too. I watched that crap about Mueller today.
Yes.
And all these Democrats, we're going to impeach Trump. Impeach him for what? What did he do? I mean, compared to what you people are doing in immigration, Pelosi should be locked up in jail with the key thrown away. Schumer, all these schmucks that are allowing the illegal invasion of our country with sanctuary cities, and they're going after Donald Trump for Russia collusion and trying to obscure an investigation. Wait a minute. That's one thing, but these people are allowing a total takeover of our country through sheer numbers to blow out the states of Texas and Florida and Arizona go blue through sheer vote. So these people should be locked up. Until I see Trump arresting these people for sanctuary city, all bets are off, Michael. This country's going to be lost very soon.
I think
I'm
so.
telling you, Europe finally just. It's too late for Europe even. I'll tell you the truth. Until I see Salvini and Le Pen, Marina Le Pen, there's places in France that people can't even go. They call them no-go zones. That's their Muslim enclaves, they call them. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? It's the same thing here in the United States. Look at Chicago.
Yes.
Look at Chicago. Joe Michael says this Jesse Smollett thing. That's another thing I was seeing on Breitbart. Actually, Matt Drudge. He says that crap is going on in Chicago with Smollett. They don't even talk about the murders. The murders are being committed in Chicago anymore, Michael.
No, they don't.
Every weekend.
Anyway, Tom, got to let you go. Got to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know.
don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And again, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. They're still going on about Robert Mueller. They just had another clip of him on Fox News. Mueller speaks like he's a trained dog or something like that. Apparently, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders is basically responding, saying after 2 years, the special counsel's Robert Mueller is moving on with his life and everyone else should do the same. She made the comment in a statement today following Mueller's public statement regarding the Russia investigation. And the press secretary pointed out Mueller explicitly said he has nothing to add beyond his report and therefore does not plan to testify before Congress. And Sarah said the report was clear in determining there was no collusion and no conspiracy, and the Department of Justice confirmed there was no obstruction. Basically, to put it in ranchers' terms here, they couldn't prove Donald Trump rustled the horse, but they definitely documented that he tried to avoid being hanged for it. All righty. Okay. Let's see. Apparently, there's renewed attention on the Skripal poisoning case. And mostly it's been kicked off because of the recent revelation that the Duma chemical attack was staged. This came out of the OPCW. Their engineering report got leaked out. And so Craig Murray is out there saying, yeah, there's so much fakery going on out there. And we're getting this technical analysis leaked to the public slowly over a long time and small pieces, and long after a false conclusion has been forced on the general public and acted on by political leaders. So again, what the OPCW found in Duma, there were no chemical weapons. There were no organophosphorus nerve agents or degradation products. It was just completely staged. So now we need to go back and say, was that the case with the Skripal case? Because except for that one clearly controlled interview with Yulia, the Skripals have been held incommunicado. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows what condition they're in. So, anyway, apparently Russia's rolling out its new heavy drone Hunter. Everybody's definitely getting ready for the drone wars, as it were. So the Russian military has announced the state-of-the-art S-350 Vityaz missile system, and they're getting ready for the big Army 2019 exhibition. Everybody loves to play with their toys here. Okay. Let's see. Everybody's getting excited about Bilderberg. Bilderberg is coming on. And apparently, well, there's a lot of participants here. Jared Kushner is going to be there. Henry Kissinger is going to be there. Eric Schmidt is going to be there. Peter Thiel is going to be there. Alex Karp, James O. Ellis, Matthew Daniels, David Petraeus, Neil Ferguson, and Satya Nadella. And the topics that will be under discussion, that's not the complete guest list, it's just the ones that, we should be concerned about. So the topics for discussion at the Bilderberg meeting this year are a stable strategic order, which sounds a lot like New World Order, Item number 2 on the agenda is what next for Europe, which again sounds like reasserting the unified federalized Europe. Number 3 is climate change and sustainability. Number 4 is China. Number 5 is Russia. Number 6 is the future of capitalism. Number 7 is Brexit. Number 8 is the ethics of artificial intelligence. Boy, would I love to be on that panel. 9, the weaponization of social media. 10, the importance of space. Would love to be on that panel. And 11, cyber threats. So basically, Bilderberg is the recruiting meeting for the New World Order, and they're going to get together and try and get some what can I tell you, some additional members to sign on here. Apparently, over in Russia, the head of Russia Today has described Julian Assange as the greatest journalist of our time. He is notable. He is certainly notable. I don't think he rises to the ranks of an Edward R. Murrow. But obviously we need to be concerned about the fact that his health is in serious condition right now, and we hope that it's not deliberate. So, okay. Apparently, Eurocrats and George Soros allies to try to thwart Salvini's new right-wing bloc. So forget what the people vote for. We're going to go on in. We've got our money. We'll just buy our way to get what we want here. And let's see. Apparently, White House advisor Jared Kushner, who's the chief architect of the deal of the century, has embarked on a tour in the Middle East to rally support for the U.S. engineered conference in Bahrain next month, where they're going to be pushing the deal of the century. And again, it's an attempt to use economics incentives to get the Palestinians to surrender their right of return. That's really the big one for Israel, is surrendering the right of return and surrendering their weapons. The goal is a demilitarized Gaza that will be named New Palestine. Okay, we already talked about that one. Talked about that. So, again, more about Mueller resigning from the Department of Justice, refusing to testify. Former Plaid Cymru leader compares Brexiteers to Nazis after posting sketch of EU arm wrestling with a swastika. That's really getting a little overused, I think. We talked about the Pope earlier today and how he's out there comparing our border wall with the Berlin Wall and saying, oh, it's evil. He's got another mess on his hands, though, and it has to do with ex-Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, who basically was hit with accusations of serial homosexual abuse. And apparently the Pope is being accused of having known about it, but reinstating the cardinal to a position of influence at the Vatican. So the Pope is saying about McCarrick, I knew nothing, obviously nothing. This is the Pope told a Mexican reporter, Valentina Alazraqui, in a lengthy interview released yesterday by Vatican News. And he said, but you know that I knew nothing about McCarrick, or I wouldn't have kept silent, would I? Well, I don't know. There's been a lot of the church leadership that's been silent on all this stuff. Anyway, last August, the former Vatican nuncio to the United States, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, released an 11-page report in which he declared he'd personally informed Pope Francis about McCarrick's misdeeds in 2013, but that Francis had restored him to a position of trust, consulting him regarding the naming of future U.S. bishops. Pope, we got you cold to rights on this one. Yes, we do. All right. Now, we have an interesting accusation, and it has to do, this is over in Austria, and it has to do with a scandal called Ibizagate. Allegations that the country's vice chancellor was discussing the possibility of a foreign citizen investing in a local newspaper in exchange for favorable media conduct. Now, Rudolf Adam is a former diplomat and deputy head of Germany's Federal Intelligence Service, claims the scandal that turned Austria's politics upside down was orchestrated by the Israeli secret services. And with that, we're going to grab ourselves a phone call. Richard in Alabama, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. You seem to have a lot of respect for Edward R. Murrow.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd remind you of something. His claim to fame was that he was on the spot during the Blitz of London.
Yes.
And he made a lot of movie tone little snippets about how awful the people of London were suffering. But he never mentioned that Britain had been bombing Germany for a month, including using incendiaries and bombing at night.
I thought that the bombing of Germany was taking place in the daylight. That's what made it so dangerous.
Later, but in the beginning, yeah, it was dangerous unless you went at night. That's why the British bombed at night. They had one bomber that would go in early. It was called a Pathfinder.
Yes.
And its mission was to set a fire big enough so that the following formation of bombers would use that as a general aiming point to hit the city.
Yes.
Of course, it didn't have to be accurate because they were bombing a big city. And they were using incendiaries. And so the British casualties were quite low. And the German deaths were quite enormous. And they were non-military. And
well, war is a terrible thing.
Edward R. Murrow seemed to have no sympathy for anybody but the poor people of London. And the poor Germans had to go out there and with Stukas, they could barely make it there and back to France. If they engaged in combat, they would run out of fuel and never make it back to France. So they had to turn around. They had to drop one bomb and turn around and run.
Yes.
So they were at a serious disadvantage. Germany never built a force of 4-engine bombers because they didn't have the fuel supplies like Britain had.
Yes.
Britain could build big bombers with big fuel tanks and carry lots of big bombs, and the Germans could carry one small bomb, just one. And they were lucky to make it back to France. Hitler designed all of his airplanes small with small fuel tanks because he knew he had very restricted fuel, and the thing that was going to ruin Germany was that he was going to run out of fuel, and all his airplanes and tanks were going to stop, and then the Allies were going to roll right in and crush him. And he was right.
Yep.
He was totally right.
Petroleum is the lifeblood of war.
He knew that. He knew that long before the war started. And of course, he didn't really start the war either. But then that's too big a subject to discuss right now.
Well, there's an interesting story about Edward R. Murrow that he was actually at the White House with Franklin Roosevelt when Pearl Harbor was attacked. And he sort of dropped hints later on in his life that he knew the real story behind Pearl Harbor, but he wasn't going to give it away for free. So nobody ever met his price, but I assume that he had learned from Franklin Roosevelt that Japan had been goaded into that attack on Pearl Harbor, and that it wasn't really a surprise.
Well, Lend-Lease included torpedoes,
yes,
and P-40s and bombs to go with the P-40s, and and torpedoes to put into those Japanese oil tankers coming back from Indonesia. That was the oil embargo.
Yes. Well, I hope we don't get to that point with all of this trade war nonsense out in the Western Pacific, where we start torpedoing other people's ships. We've already started seizing them, and I think it's a dangerous escalation. Anyway, Richard, anything else?
Well, I guess that's all I can think of right now. But Murrow is not such a great man. He did keep a lot of secrets, and he took them to his grave. But he should have spilled the beans.
Well, he wouldn't have kept his job very long if he did that. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the movie that it stars George Clooney about Edward R. Murrow and about his life and about going up against the House Committee on Un-American Activities and Joseph McCarthy.
Oh, well, 90% of the people that McCarthy accused were really guilty of being secret communists. So, well, 90% is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, but he ruined a lot of innocent lives here. It's not like these people were actively engaged in bringing harm to the United States. Coming out of World War II, the communists were supposed to be our friends. And so a lot of people were kind of wondering what was going on with that. Anyway, Richard, we need to let you go. We need to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion.
Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. I'm looking at the Fox News feed. They're still talking impeachment. It's like there's nothing else happening in the world other than the political infighting. And I don't know, I'm getting kind of tired of hearing it all. Do you remember the Navajo Code Talkers? They did a movie about it. I think they called it Wind Talkers. And it was basically a way of communicating during World War II in a manner that the Japanese could not intercept, because the Code Talkers were speaking Navajo, and even more important than that, they were speaking in metaphors. For example, when they were talking about tanks, they would use the Navajo word for a turtle. And the Japanese never broke the code. Well, John Pinto, one of the last living World War II Code Talkers, passed away this last week, age 94, and had a good long run. He served as a code talker in World War II. Then he graduated from the University of New Mexico's College of Education. In 1976, he was elected to serve in the New Mexico State Senate, where he served for 40 years. And he was also one of the code talkers who received a Congressional Silver Medal back in 2001. So, little bit of history. Was a very clever way of securing communications against the Japanese. And basically, the men who served with the Code Talkers, they were under orders. If the Code Talker was at risk of being captured by the Japanese, they were to shoot them, because the Japanese would have tortured them to get that code. Apparently, Joe Biden has had another interaction with a girl at a rally that's being described as creepy. It was a 10-year-old girl, and basically, Biden put his hands on her shoulders. He really needs to stop doing this. People are going to seize on it. And he said to the girl, "I'll bet you're as bright as you are good looking." Then he put his hands on the shoulder. And he's got to stop doing this stuff. He's got to stop doing this stuff. Alrighty. Up in the state of Maine, they have decided that religious and philosophical reasons will no longer be enough for parents to opt their kids out of vaccines. You will get your jab. You will pay for it. Maybe it'll make your kids sick. Maybe it'll make your kids healthy. We're not really sure. But you will get the jab. And talk about a dystopian dictatorship here. All righty. We already talked about that. Apparently, we already talked about job cuts in the auto industry. Anyway, we're coming up here on the end of the show. We should be hearing some music very, very soon. So stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it with your friends and family. Use email, paper mail, face-to-face. Don't bother with social media. It's become useless for everything but cat videos. Please donate to RBN. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.